Well, hello there, dear listeners. Didn't see you there. But welcome anyway to a brand new episode of The Partial Historians. I am definitely the loudest of your hosts, Dr. Adness, and sitting over here looking fabulous.
Oh, why, thank you. Dr. Greenfield, hello, welcome.
Now, I gave you a very pointed compliment
You
there.
did, because I think we're in the Fabian period of
Oh, you
consulship.
know me so well. That's right, dear listeners. We have been tracing the journey of the city of Rome from the founding of the city until such a time as we see fit to say it's over. And lately, it seems to be full of Fabii.
It is, and boy, is it full of Fabii.
Yeah.
And now the stories are getting kind of entangled.
Yeah.
And we left you, and it was the end of 481 BCE.
Or so they say.
Also, according to some sources.
According to mine, I'm already in the 470s. I'm decades ahead of you.
Ooh, ouch.
Finally.
Wow. I mean, we can go into the complexities of dating at some point. I feel like that's a whole episode.
Yeah, no, we won't.
But it's 480, roundabout.
Yes.
BCE.
Yeah.
Guess what?
Stuff's been happening.
Well, one of our consuls is Marcus Fabius.
Nice, I have him too. In fact, I have him paired with one, I believe it's pronounced Gnaeus Manlius.
Gnaeus Manlius.
Because we're men, manly men. We're men in togas.
Indeed we are. Men in togas. Yeah. That's us. Marcus Fabius, consul for the second time.
Well, I hope he's bringing his A game, Dr. G, because last episode, I believe both our historians were somewhat underwhelmed by a relative of his and his performance in the field.
Yeah, Kaiser Fabius needs to lift his game.
Absolutely he does. Practically had I think he had a mutiny on his hands.
Yeah, look, there was some desertion involved.
Yeah, I mean...
Ouch.
Yeah. Apart from the fact that I like the way that word begins, I don't like the way the word ends.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of a problem. There's some difficult things to reconcile, because the Fabii are clearly the predominant family in terms of the Senate and the consulship.
You can't swing a cat without hitting a Fabius.
Yeah, it's...
or Fabii. Yeah.
Some would say that's fabulous, but I disagree.
No.
And despite the troubles that some of them are facing, nevertheless, come the next year, who do we find?
Yep,
There's
exactly.
another one.
Yep. Well, I feel like the patricians tend to do this, I think. I think we've seen this before, where they tend to throw their weight behind particular people and particular clans, kind of no matter what, even if they're screwing up all over the place. Yeah.
So, well, at the very least, their mother must be proud.
Yeah. Only a Roman mother.
My sons. Consulship after consulship.
And that's saying something, because the consulship's only been around for a couple of years.
It's pretty new, guys.
Yeah.
And my sons are all over it. They're all good at it.
Yeah.
Kaizo could use some improvement.
Nonetheless, Dr. G, last year that we talked about, there was quite a spunky little tribune of the plebs on the block.
There was.
Yeah, tried to shift things up, shake things up a little for the plebs, get the agrarian law back on the agenda, because once again the patricians have done their classic government move of, yeah, sure, we promise you, we'll get the wheels are in motion, the check's in the mail, just be patient. These things take time, and nothing has been happening, clearly.
Yes, anyone would think that warfare is a convenient excuse to not make any move on domestic policy.
My thoughts exactly. According to my account, there's another little tribune of the plebs who's willing to kick up some dust.
Second year in a row, little bit of an uprising.
Absolutely.
Tiberius Pontificus.
Oh, well, see, mine is Titus Pontificus, but I like the name Tiberius, as you know, so I'm willing to go with you.
I mean, I don't mind. Either way, we have somebody stand up and oppose the pretty standard call for the levy of soldiers.
Yep, because they still have some external issues to deal with, probably because, there was a mutiny.
Well, and mostly the issue with Veii and the Tyrrhenians is looming large in the Roman imagination at the moment.
Yeah, definitely.
There seems to be a new alliance to the north.
Yeah. And see, I kind of wonder, because last time you talked a lot about Appius Claudius, and how he came up with this very clever plan last time when there was a troublesome tribune getting up to no good tricks, that they convinced the other tribune of the plebs to get onto their side, presumably with a bit of a wink, wink, nudge, nudge money under the table.
There'll be something in it for you later.
Absolutely, yeah. I actually have it being in this year that Appius Claudius is recorded as being vocal. But he does acknowledge that they tried the plan the year before. It's just that he's more vocal in this year in Livy. Yeah.
There's always the dark hand of Appius Claudius behind every tribunician failure.
Yeah, well, he's like, when you have multiple people in an office, as we do, guys, there's always one of them at least who's willing to put aside his morality in favour of his career, like getting ahead. That worked brilliantly last time. Let's do it again, shall we?
Boy, do I have a plan for you. Same as last year.
Yeah, because it worked so goddamn well.
Yeah, and it does work again, according to our source material.
I'm telling you guys, unity. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's all over and done and dusted, and they do the levy, and everybody signs up. It feels all very sort of routine in terms of the narrative.
Yeah, but don't worry, dear listeners. I can promise you, at some point in the not too distant future, things will start to change.
Oh, we're building up to some big change.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things that is interesting in this moment with the levying of troops is that Dionysius mentions that the Latins and the Venusians send troops over, and Rome sends half of them back.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's weird.
It's just a bit of a throwaway line.
Because they're not good enough? Or because they don't need them?
I don't know. I feel like it wasn't that many years ago that Rome was in the midst of a crisis of being able to levy enough troops to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, presumably with the plebeians not being thrilled about fighting, you would want.
Yeah, I'm really not sure what to make of it. They send double the number of auxiliaries that Rome calls for. And when they send more, in this sort of gesture of goodwill, Rome just sends them back. Which is almost... I feel like maybe this is a moment where Rome is adhering to its policy of being relatively kind to an ally.
Maybe so. I mean, Livy does really play up in his whole story about the, how they got the tribunes on side and that sort of thing. He really plays up this idea of the patricians exerting charm in order to get their way. So one by one, they win over the various tribunes of the plebs. Some of them by just being super, super nice. Some of them by using their, sort of client-patron type relationship. Some of them just using their political clout,
Yeah, so there's clever patricians.
So maybe the Romans are just using kindness in every direction.
Leverage.
That's right. We may be overlords, but we are most...
How benevolent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, that is weird. All right, fair enough.
Yeah, look, I only mention it because it's weird and I don't have any good answer for it.
No.
But yes.
I've got a bit of detail for once about what's happening in the enemy camp.
Take the floor.
I will. It's not a lot, so don't get too excited. But still, I get very excited when I see anything on my page. So, obviously, the big threat right now is the city of Veii and their allies further north. Correct?
Correct.
Right. Okay, now, Livy is very careful to say that all this is happening is not because Veii is so awesome, as if for a second it is more awesome than Rome. Don't you go thinking it, because it's not. Really, what's happening here is that everyone in the region apparently is getting on board this threat because they know if they don't take Rome down now, its power will last forever.
Oh.
Forever.
Oh, I see. Oh, Rome's the big enemy because they're so good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and
that's a very convenient narrative.
It has to be now, Dr. D. Do you not understand? Now. You must strike now.
Before they fully hatched from the egg.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Interessante.
Yeah. So I just thought that was, not at all biased reporting.
Thanks, Livy, for your update.
Yeah, and he's even given a little speech. I won't repeat it, but...
That seems a shame considering there's so few of Livy.
Well, I'll give you just one of my favourite sentences, okay, which gives you the gist of what I just said. The power of the Romans would be everlasting unless civil dissension armed them with rage against each other. This was the only infection, the only poison that operated, so as to set limits to the duration of great empires. Now, would Livy perhaps be, again, maybe reading into things a little bit because he happened to live, during a time of massive civil wars and complete change of the political system in Rome by giving too much power to civil strife?
I think it's
Maybe.
entirely possible. And I think it's also a little bit of foreshadowing in his narrative, perhaps. Because we are about to hit some like really big time conflict. You thought this was bad, guys.
Yeah.
Just you wait.
I've just got one more sentence for you because this is just
Oh,
so funny.
please.
Okay.
Please do.
This evil, as in civil strife, whose progress had long been retarded, partly by the wise management of the patricians, and partly by the patient conduct of the commons, has now proceeded to extremity.
Wow. It's just amazing. It must be pretty clear to you listeners at this point that both of us are quite left in our penchant for reading source material.
Although according to a quiz I did, I am only moderately.
Oh, we'll come back to that some other time. And yet our source material is very much positioned in favour of the patricians.
Yeah, definitely.
Desertion is pretty horrific and it's characterised in a terrible way by Dionysius.
Yeah.
And I have a whole bunch of little notes that I usually don't read out where I was like, well, that's a very pro-patrician reading of what might be going on in this situation. Dionysius, thank you very much.
Without doubt, we've got to be representing the story as told by patricians.
Yeah, but the wisdom of the patricians is really interesting. And the fact that our source material is also giving us this huge continuing conflict which doesn't resolve as well, and trying to find a way to have the patricians still be noble within the scope of something working against them.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting tension.
And also their seeming lack of ability, again, no bearing on modern times whatsoever, to adapt to new challenges or even old challenges. Just the persistence in sticking to tried and true methods and the way of doing things.
Guys, stick to the plan.
Yeah, but I have to keep in mind, the Romans they do like their tradition. They like tradition. They do.
They do.
Yeah.
They prioritize tradition.
Yeah.
All of their political framework is around about predicated on this wisdom of the elders.
Yeah, you can kind of still see an our legal system, obviously, with the whole idea of appealing to precedent,
Yeah, and there's a real conservatism that is built into a system like that.
Absolutely.
So it's not surprising that it's taking so long for anything to have enough effect to create change.
Yes, but I'm just going to tell you right now, guys, the moral of this story is that if you just keep on trying and don't give up, eventually change does happen. Anyway,
there is light at the end of this tunnel.
I'm drifting. Okay, so that's what Livy says is happening in the conversations amongst Livy citizens of Veii.
Yes, take them out before it's too late.
Well, pretty much, and also clearly, clearly the idea is that all these guys are aware that Rome's got internal issues, and their plan is to exploit that, and that's the tactic.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
That would be my tactic too.
Totally, yes.
So we get to this point where my narrative moves straight on to the army being outside of Veii.
Really? Okay, well, I actually have a little bit more detail, if that's okay.
Yeah, do it.
I mean, it's not a huge amount, again, but just a little tidbit, which I find quite interesting. Livy goes on to say, after reporting about what's happening in the enemy camp, that the Roman consuls themselves weren't really scared of anything except for themselves. not as in they're
Veii's afraid of Rome. Rome's afraid of itself.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Basically, they are afraid of their own countrymen. They're afraid of the impact that this civil war is going to have.
And so they should be.
Well, completely, again, legitimately. But it's interesting that he does admit, at least, that Rome at this point in time just doesn't have faith in its troops. Like, they don't want to engage because they are scared of what might happen if their troops go into the field. And therefore, they're actually keeping their army in camp because they're hoping that as time passes, they might become more obedient.
Oh, yeah. So this plays very nicely into the story that Dionysius of Halicarnassus tells us for this situation. So he sets it up in this sense that Veii is this big city.
Yeah.
The Romans make 2 encampments outside the city.
Yeah.
And Veii also has some troops that they've camped outside their city.
Yeah.
Which is a bit weird, but okay.
Yeah.
So the Romans are on 2 sides, the Veii army in the middle, the city behind, and everybody is just sort of waiting. Tyrannio seems to be on its way, or at least incorporated.
Okay,
like
somehow,
coming down on its way.
Yeah, Livy definitely has this idea that they are allies.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
And they're sort of coming in sort of, it seems like dribs and drabs, and joining up with this army encampment at the front.
Yeah.
Joining their allies. So be it.
Yeah.
The Romans sort of bunker down, and they're looking to like just prolong this situation.
Yeah.
And then we have a sign from the gods.
Ooh, I don't have a sign.
A sign from the gods.
What is it?
A thunderbolt.
Oh, come on. Sorry, I was hoping for something else, like, I don't know.
Oh, wait for it.
Maltesers falling
Yeah,
from the
yeah,
sky.
A thunderbolt.
Okay, yeah.
That falls upon the headquarters of the consul, Gnaeus Manlius.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Yep.
It tears his tent to pieces.
Ooh, but is he left untouched?
It overturns his half.
His what?
Half.
Oh, right. Okay.
His inner fire.
Yeah, that's right.
It tarnishes some of his weapons of war,
Ooh.
scorching some and completely destroying others.
Well, Thunderbolts do that.
It kills one of his finest horses.
Oh.
Yeah. The one he uses in battle.
No.
And some of his servants.
I feel like this is not a good sign at all, actually.
It's a pretty bad sign.
Yeah. I think this is going to be positive.
Manlius himself is unharmed.
Aha.
You'll be pleased to know.
I knew it.
So he goes to the augurs and he's like, guys.
That is a mixed sign. Yeah.
He goes to the augurs and he points at his tent where there's like strewn devastation.
Left,
yeah, the corpse of some servants and his finest horse.
Yeah.
And he's like, what do you reckon, guys?
On the other hand, I'm looking good though, am I not?
Yeah, like me.
And all of a sudden, when I point my wrists out, spider webs come out. What do you think?
I'm having this sensation.
Yeah, exactly.
And they were like, look, that's pretty bad.
Go and see this guy called Professor X. He'll fix you up.
And they're like, okay, let's think about this.
Yeah.
They're like, the gods are foretelling the capture of the camp.
Okay.
So this is one of the Roman encampments, the whole camp.
Yeah.
And the death of the most important persons in that camp.
That doesn't sound good.
No. So Manlius is like, right you are then.
Off I go.
Rouses everybody in the camp and like, let's get out of here so we can't die. Leads them to the other camp.
Yeah.
And takes up quarters with his colleague. So he ends up in what Marcus Fabius's tent. He's like, can I sleep with you tonight?
Sorry, it's just so funny.
One consul to another. It's dark times.
Dear Lucretia, as I lie here next to Fabius, the warmth of his body reminded me that soon I shall be caressing your curvaceous Roman matronly form again. I am comforted.
I was lost in the wilderness, but my fellow consul took me in. Yeah, so tough times. Can I share your tent?
Why can't I quit you, Fabius? Why?
And I feel like on some level, like, Fabius must be like, well, sure, but also like, I don't know if I want to bring your bad luck into my tent.
That's right. Can I bunk with you? The gods are trying to kill me.
Like, I'm not sure. I mean, I don't want to say no, but I also don't want to say yes. I feel really conflicted.
See, I don't have this story, and so I am very conflicted because I don't know whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know whether trying to outsmart the gods is going to be interpreted as like hubris, or whether it's going to be actually outsmarting the gods.
Oh wait, it gets worse.
Okay, go.
So they haven't like packed up and dismantled their camp, because a Roman encampment, you've got to like you do the trench work and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like
pretty full on.
Yeah, you lay things out. There are some structures.
Yeah.
They just abandon the camp.
Yeah.
And move to the other camp.
Gotcha.
So they leave. There's a whole bunch of stuff sitting around.
Which does make me think that they were literally like, yoink, scoops!
We're like, go and get out of here.
Yeah.
The gods are following us. Fair enough. In the meantime, it turns out that the Tyrrhenian augurs are considered to be the best of all of the augurs in the Italian region.
Of course, you're right.
Yeah,
yes.
way better than the Romans.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, wait up. That was a sign from the gods.
No shit, Sherlock.
They're reputed to have greater accuracy. With signs from the sky, like thunderbolts.
Gotcha. Yes, well, yes.
And they're like, wait a minute. The thunderbolt has fallen on the consul's tent.
Right.
That's the army's headquarters.
Uh-huh.
Everything's been utterly destroyed.
Yeah.
This is the gods foretelling the whole army that their camp is going to be wiped out. So they come to a similar conclusion. And the death of the principal persons in that camp. Mm-hmm. And they're like, actually, this is a problem. The Romans have tried to outsmart the gods by abandoning that camp.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So,
yes.
Yeah. By leaving that camp,
yeah,
they've actually exposed themselves to the retribution of the gods, rather than just accepting their fate.
I feel like it's got to be kind of a lose-lose situation, though, surely.
Well, I suppose principal persons might just mean everybody in, like, command positions.
Oh, no, I know, but still... I mean, yeah, I suppose you're right. What they've done could obviously be much, much worse, but still, you know... It's still going to be bad.
Yeah, so now they're trying to escape their fate.
Gotcha.
That's going to be an issue.
Sucks for you, Manlius.
Yeah, so this is going to be a problem. And what we should do is probably occupy that camp so they can't go back to it and repair their relationship with the gods.
Right, okay, gotcha. I was about to say, wait a second.
Wait a minute.
They were sounding so smart up until a second ago.
I want you to go into that camp where the gods hate everybody.
Yeah, that's right.
And just stay there.
Pretend to be Roman.
Yeah. But they won't be able to avoid the gods' wrath for having tried to outsmart them if they can't get back to the camp.
That is interesting. Okay, so do we find out what happens?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I've got pages of this.
This is very different to how mine goes. I'm just going to say that right now. Yeah.
This is setting up something quite interesting for Dionysius' narrative as much as anything else.
Gotcha. Well, I understand why maybe he doesn't have it then, because it's not Dionysius' narrative.
Yeah. What is this battle?
Yeah.
He's about to tell us.
Yeah.
So the Tyrrhenians go in and they take possession of that camp, and they're like, let's turn it into a fort. Let's make it even better. We can do some of that.
Oh yes, that is fabulous, darling. Fabulous. I can just see it. More spikes.
I just want to put an extension over here.
Yes, I see what you're talking about. We need to build.
And while they're doing that, they're sort of wandering around in between their own camp in the middle, this new camp off to one side.
Right.
And as they're passing by the Romans' camp off to one side while they do this, they taunt them by calling them names. Right, so all the Romans are packed in one camp, all huddled together a little bit more tightly than they'd like to be. And they have the Tyrrhenians walking past, being like, and I quote, called them all women. Personally quite offended. And taunt their leaders, likening them to the most cowardly of animals. No details given on what those animals might be.
What is the most cowardly of animals?
I wish I could tell you that detail. That's the sort of thing I long for with history. So they sort of taunt them in various ways, the name calling, being like, you can't come out to battle, what's wrong with you?
Hey, McFly!
You're all squished in there. Wouldn't you like some fresh air?
Nobody calls me chicken. No, actually, that part is in my account.
Okay.
That part is in my account.
Excellent.
Yeah, that they try to ride up to the camp, challenge them by having insults, and saying things like that you're not really fighting amongst yourselves. You're just making excuses because you're cowards.
Ooh, low blow.
Civil war? Don't think so.
Which is pretty hilarious because everyone in the camp would be like, yeah, no, like we've got some issues here.
Yeah, like actually, I'd like to talk to you about it.
I haven't seen my therapist, but there are some problems.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, yes, continue. Yeah.
That's kind of amazing.
Yeah.
So the consuls don't do anything, which is part of the way that Dionysius is interested in presenting this story. So they don't respond to
the insults?
To the insults.
Okay, right, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Because...
Very un-Roman, yeah.
Un-Roman, but also tying in to what you were saying earlier.
Yeah.
Because it's explained as being that they're really quite afraid of the soldiers shirking their duty.
Yeah,
definitely. From apathy.
Yeah.
And the whole issue with the land allotment.
Decades of abuse. Yeah, I getcha. Yeah.
And they're like, look... And, and they've had that experience just the year before.
Yes.
Where there's been some pretty clear desertion.
One of them with a family member. Yeah.
And they're like, not feeling super confident, actually.
Well, Livy goes on to sort of say that when he's talking about how the consuls are nervous, that in response to these insults, that the troops, obviously, being Romans and men, they get, like really rolled up, they're furious, they're almost furious, they're so angry.
I'm so angry, I'm furious.
Yeah. And they're ashamed of themselves, but at the same time, they are still not actually wanting the consuls or the patricians to have success. So,
real conflict, isn't it?
Really. I mean, I think this is probably the most nuanced it's gotten in these accounts. I mean, we've seen this kind of thing before. External threat. The problem is the Romans aren't united. La la la. But this kind of thing is new.
Yeah. Where the consuls are finally like, I don't think these guys are going to fight for me, even though I've dragged them all the way half across the country to do so.
And we've done a lot of, like, greasing of wheels in terms of getting all the tribunes of the plebs on side. And
the amount of people I've had to, like, negotiate with to get us to this point, and these guys still don't want to fight.
Yeah. What is up with them? Jeez. You give and you give.
I'm trying really hard here, buddy.
I've got so much charm. I'm a patrician.
So this parallels Dionysius to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So he talks about the way that the consuls allow this taunting to continue in the sense that they don't respond to it because they're interested in the effect of shame and necessity as methods of ultimately compelling the soldiers to fight.
Yeah, I think there is still a bit of a parallel here, even though it's framed slightly differently. In that in Livy's accounts, the troops decide that they want to fight, so they go to the consuls and say, "Right, we're ready. Let's do this." And the consuls are like, "Gee, I don't know. You sounded awfully mutinous before. You're really gonna have to convince me. I don't know. I'm not seeing this. I'm not seeing it at all. I hear what you're saying, but the face, the tone, it's not matching up." The consuls are like, nope, not happening. You're not fighting.
Okay, so we've got some really nice parallels here. So we do get this moment where Dionysius is building it up as if they're hoping the soldiers will come to him and beg to fight.
Yeah.
Through the shame and necessity.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And
which is working on Livy's account.
Yeah. And when they kind of do, they start to approach the consuls and like, look, let us go at them. And
sorry.
But like in this sort of like, can we fight them?
Yeah.
Not like, I'm ready. Let me at them.
Yeah.
Like, will you let us go out there and like give these guys a bit of a serve?
Yeah.
Marcus Fabius gets up and gives a big speech.
Of course he does.
Welcome to Dionysius and Halicarnassus doing rhetoric.
Yeah.
And he's like, look, I see you guys. I recognize. But there's a reason why I'm not interested in sending you out to fight.
Yeah.
You're slow.
You ain't got this.
You lose through neglect.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Them is fighting words.
Where's your eagerness to follow orders?
Yeah.
We're all drawing the same conclusions here. We're afraid about these grievances that you guys have keep raising about this allotment of land.
If only you had shut up about the land.
Yeah. I mean, it's causing a lot of mischief.
Quite frankly, I'm disappointed.
I'm disappointed in all of you.
Yeah.
You are my children. It's causing great mischief to the whole state. And so we're a bit suspicious. Understandably.
I actually have a similar line, like they're not a speech. I wouldn't go so far as to call it a speech, but in Livy's account, Fabius says to them, like basically kind of talking to the other consul, presumably so that everyone can hear him. Similar things, but finishing up by saying, soldiers have once deceived a Roman consul in the field, but they will never deceive the gods.
Ooh. Oh, that's a bit hectic.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, well, look, coming on the back of an omen.
Yeah. And then I actually have a bit of an I Am Spartacus scene.
Oh.
Where like a centurion stands up and he's like, Marcus Fabius, I will return victorious from the field.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Sorry,
we're getting to that. Yeah, I've got some of that as well.
Yeah.
So he goes into a big long discourse on the issues with last year under his brother Kaizo.
Let's dissect last year, guys.
Yeah. And even better,
what happened out there?
Yeah, and he can point to his brother because his brother has a minor command this year in his own army. So he points to Kaizo and he's like, remember when you didn't follow this guy, my brother? last year.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, yeah, that one.
Awkward.
Snicker. Be like, I don't want him to be an imperator.
Yeah.
And it's like, and you begrudged him the glory that is his due as a patrician commander by refusing to fight properly.
Oh, vomit. Okay.
I know. Because, and why? Because he didn't just constantly try to please the poor. So I feel like he might be losing his crowd in this moment.
Yeah. Not about pleasing them so much as just giving them freaking what they deserve.
And the poor are standing there in front of him being like, I still want my land.
Yeah. Kind of still need, like, food.
Yeah. And it's like, so, ultimately, as the consuls, we've been quite unwilling to join battle.
Yeah.
And we don't think you really support us. We're worried that we'll let you out there, you'll have a little bit of revenge, and then you're just going to run away.
Fool me once, shame on me.
Yeah.
Twice.
Yeah, and he's like, look, there are some things in our favour. For instance.
Me. Fabius. Oh, yeah.
The biggest pro on our side at the moment?
Yeah.
The folly of the enemy.
Ah.
Oh, yeah, so he switches course.
What is the folly of the enemy? They seem to be pretty clever so far.
He's like, they're wasting a lot of time hanging out in that empty encampment that we left behind, when they really should be behind some walls. I mean, they've left themselves exposed, let's face it. We know.
Yeah, I suppose.
We know the layout of the camp.
This is true.
If there's one thing I can tell you, it ain't a fort.
Yeah. And there ain't no commander standing.
They're wasting their time and their energy trying to turn it into one.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Right. I pay that. Is this when you have your I am Spartacus moment? Where they're all like, I will return victorious.
Kind of. But he kind of gives this sort of sense that, the allotment of land is coming.
What?
Weirdly.
Okay.
Look upon the spot. Look upon your lot of land. Look upon your country. So he tries to weave in, maybe like this idea of future land allotment into the end of this
You sure he's not
speech.
just talking about people who already have some land?
Look, I don't know.
Huh.
I mean, he's addressing the entire troop at this point.
Yeah.
So there's a whole bunch of people.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, and everybody's sort of like, oh yeah, we could get in on this fight, and he's like, I'm still not convinced. And this is when we have Marcus Favolius.
Yeah, what a mouthful that name is.
Favolius.
Flavolius.
There are many vowels.
Yes, there are.
Apparently a plebeian.
Let's just call him Flavor Flavs.
A small-time farmer.
Yep.
Celebrated for his merits and valiance in war.
He is named as being amongst the keenest.
Yes, and he also holds the rank of Primi Pili, which, first spear.
That is so adorable.
Primus Pilus, first spear, centurion.
I'm going to call him Peachy Keen Jelly Bean.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a, retrodiction of late Roman Republican army speak.
Yeah.
But he is...
Let's face it, he's
in charge of a whole bunch of centuries, essentially.
Yeah.
So he's a bit of an officer. He's pretty much holding maybe the sort of almost the second highest rank he could hold as a plebeian soldier.
Impressive.
And importantly, according to Dionysius, besides his other recommendations, he was tall and fair to look upon.
Well, if that doesn't matter in a soldier, I don't know what does. I told you we'd go to G. Flavor Flavs.
We're on campaign. We're all alone. By ourselves. He's tall and fair to look upon. Excellent. I'll follow him anywhere.
Yeah. Where you lead, I will follow you.
So there's nothing like the charisma of physique to guarantee loyalty.
Hey, works for Thor, works for me.
He gets up
and
he's like, oi, I'll give the best pledge any Roman can give.
Yes, some promises to gods, I'm imagining. Father Jupiter.
Well, the traditional oath apparently here is swearing by his own good faith that he would return to Rome victorious over the enemy or not at all.
Yep, that sounds like a Roman sentiment to me.
And everyone's like, oh! This is the moment where the crowd goes wild. Oh!
Yes.
Our favourite centurion. Woo! He's so cute. I love it when he does that.
I I see you, baby. Shaking that ass.
And interestingly, this is the moment where the consuls are then like, we'll take the same oath. We're with you, buddy.
Well, of course they take this. Oh, for God's sake.
They're like, oh, that's what we were looking for. A little bit of a demonstration.
A bit of commitment. That's all we wanted, guys.
One person's with us. I'm with you guys.
Yeah, see, I like my count much more. Okay, this is going to work. I'll say the line, Dr. G, then you say the line. Okay, you ready?
Okay.
All right, so
okay.
I've got this moment where it goes. Soldiers have often deceived a Roman consul in the field, but they will never deceive the gods. Marcus Fabius, I will return victorious in the field. And then another man stands up.
Oh, can I be Gnaeus Manlius? Can I?
Go ahead. You do this line. Then you say.
Ooh, nice. Gnaeus Manlius, I will return victorious from the field.
Marcus Flavius, I will also return victorious from the field. And so it goes.
If only Tiberius Furious was here now.
I know.
Such a shame.
The passion.
Everybody gets into it. Yeah, so we have this moment. All the subordinate officers get up and do it.
Yep.
All the rest of the centurions. Yep. All the rank and file.
Yep. And I particularly like, even though I know this is a translation, the way that Livy describes their march out to battle. They march out to battle full of rage and confidence.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Look, they do some pretty, solid, sacrificing beforehand because they're going to make up for that
Of
horrible
course.
omen.
Yeah. I was going to say, does that come back into play at all? Yeah. Not really.
Well, I will argue that it does, but maybe not in...
the way you might think.
Yeah.
Okay, well, good for the Romans then. I was expecting something pretty horrific.
Do you have details of the battle?
Not a lot. I've got a bit of a as Livy tends to give me, a succinct summary. So the Romans march out and they are keen as mustard, Dr. G. Nothing could be keener, okay? And so the Etrurians, I'm going to say the Etruscans. Well, same deal. They are saying, oh, you want to insult us now, guys? Bring it on! We're ready for you. You were so bold with your words. Let's see it on the field. And Livy tells me that all men, Dr. G, not plebeians, not patricians, but all, fight with particular valour that day.
Hello.
And it made the Fabian name, the Fabian race, shine forth with peculiar luster.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's pretty much like that.
Wow. Okay. Well, buckle yourself up for some contrast.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. The battle begins.
Yes.
It's outside Veii.
Okay.
Everybody's ready, hankering for it.
Yep.
Gnaeus Manlius is on the right wing.
Yep.
Mm.
Okay.
They're doing fine, but they get repulsed.
Ooh.
It's a bit, by the enemy.
They're not as attractive as our Flavor Flavs.
Yeah, they're not as good looking as our centurions. I don't know if I want to fight them. So eventually they have to quit the cavalry, get down on foot, so it gets a bit, really quickly.
Yeah,
it gets a little bit messy.
Yeah.
We have the left wing, commanded by Quintus Fabius. Turns out there's another brother there.
Of course there is, because the Fabian race is shining with particular
luster.
Yeah.
So Quintus Fabius, formerly consul of 485, formerly consul of 482, in this instance given some sort of a command with imperium. Which is below the consulship. Yeah, but we don't really know what it's called at this point in time. Nobody's really sure. He's described as a legate and proconsular, but this designation is completely unclear for this time period.
Yeah.
And it is probably something that's more like a praetor, but except a praetor hasn't been invented yet.
Yep.
So we don't know. He's doing something.
No, actually, Livy does mention that that this is why he talks about the Fabians being particularly awesome on that day, because they are like the whole family is pretty much there. Yeah. It's a real family affair. And all of them are, of course, setting a awesome example because they are the Fabians.
Look, they're trying their best.
Yes.
So Quintus Fabius has the left wing. Marcus Fabius has the centre command.
Ooh.
And there is also Caeso Fabius, mentioned earlier, he was there where the speech was happening.
Well, he has some splaining to do.
And he's hanging out as well. But we have this moment really quickly on where Quintus Fabius, struck in the breast by a spear.
Yes.
to the point of which it pierced his bowels,
Oh.
and he fell through loss of blood.
Oh. Not his bowels being punctured by a spear?
No.
Not being impaled in the ground?
No.
No, I also have an account of this as well, that once the battle breaks out, so Fabians, awesome, Etruscans going, ooh, this is actually a little bit more hairy than we were expecting. This is not good. And the Romans like, how do you like me now? But that everyone, it's getting into that slow motion. No! And Fabius gets struck down because he is so awesome that everyone feels the loss.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
This turns, as soon as Marcus Fabius hears about it, he immediately turns away from wherever he's fighting and heads into where Quintus has fallen.
Yes.
Summons Kaizo to help him out.
Yeah.
So all the brothers rush over.
Yeah.
They get there, and he's still kind of alive. He's,
oh my god!
He's fallen through loss of blood. So he's fainted and collapsed, but he's not quite dead yet.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense. I thought you meant he died from lack of blood, and I was like, surely the loss of bowels.
Yeah, but
and other organs.
He does die.
Yeah.
But after the brothers get there.
Yeah.
So it's like it's like that pinnacle movie moment where and he's like,
Quintus,
tell my wife.
Nothing, because she is not important. Just make sure you put on my tomb that I was consul twice.
Make the Fabii live forever. And so he dies in the arms of his brother.
Yeah.
And so this sort of drives Marcus Fabius and Kaiser Fabius into this frenzy. And they're just like,
I get the feeling that he's a bit nervous that the soldiers are going to lose some of their resolve. Seeing this guy fall.
Yeah. It's like, look, I'm having a classic Jon Snow moment, but I'm not going to bring that into it. That's very complicated. Anyway.
Okay. Yeah.
So, he goes where the enemy is thickest.
Yeah.
Jumps right into it, makes heaps of dead bodies.
Yeah.
That's how he's going to deal with grief and shock.
Yeah, see, okay, I've got some lines here. Apparently, after the fall of his brother, he says, "Soldiers, is this what ye bound yourselves to perform? Was it that you would return to the camp in flight? Are ye so much more afraid of the most dastardly enemy than of Jupiter and Mars, by whom ye swore? But for my part, though bound by no oath," because he did not take this oath, "I will return either victorious or die here, fighting beside thee, Quintus Fabius."
Ooh.
Yeah.
Stirring stuff, guys.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. And he just keeps going. Power on.
Well, yeah, his brother's like, dude, let's just, the gods will make sure that these guys do their job, so let's just, bat on, shall we?
Over here.
Let's just do our bit to be worthy of our name, because we are awesome, and kick on. Yeah.
Fair enough. So it's a bit of a terrible time.
Yes.
The Fabii are having an unpleasant experience.
Yes.
And then we switch focus, pan across the scene of the battle.
Yes.
Back to Gnaeus Manlius.
Of course.
He's been struck in the knee with a javelin.
No! That's not good.
Yeah. Thrust it to the point through to the hamstrings.
Jesus Christ.
Ah,
this is very grisly detail
deep.
that I am lacking.
Yeah, look, so people take him up because obviously he falls off his horse or whatever.
Yeah.
And they start to carry him back to camp, and the Tyrrhenians and the Veians believe he's dead.
Yeah.
And so they're like, "Wah, press harder."
Which is a shame, because according to Livy, they had almost won when he was wounded, of course.
Having thought about it, should have just held their ground.
Yeah.
Instead, they press for the apparent advantage. He does appear to be out for the count. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
But it's always hard to tell on a battlefield.
Absolutely.
So they start to a bit of a problem.
Yeah,
so
just a bit.
The Tyrrhenians seem to get quite excited at this point, and are like, "Oh, we've nearly won." So,
au contraire, according to Livy. Not according to Livy.
So if we pursue them, this will be great. And this leads to a whole bunch of Tyrrhenians dying and a whole bunch of Romans dying. And they sort of cancel each other out at that point, while Manlius is still getting carried away from the site.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, another group of Tyrrhenians.
Yeah.
The ones that are hanging out in the abandoned camp.
Oh, okay, yes.
And they were like, ooh. They see that the other camp on the other side of the battlefield that the Romans had occupied looks largely understaffed at this point because most of the troops are engaged in the battle.
To be kidding. This might be parallel because I have a mention in here by Livy that there seems to be some looting going on. Is this what they do?
Oh yeah, they're super excited. And they're like, so if we go from this camp over to that camp while they're not looking and they're not really there, we're gonna like double the win here. So they're kind of right.
Yeah.
The trouble is that the
Triarii
the Triarii are in that camp, hanging back, waiting till like things are so bad that they're needed.
Now they are the guys. They're the super duper like Roman soldiers, aren't they? They're the ones that have served the longest. They're the most experienced. Yeah.
These are the guys. Yeah, they've come up before, so we've talked about them. They're the oldest vets. They're the most rich. They have the best equipment, and they're the last to join the fight.
Yeah.
So they just hang out in the camp.
They're like a little box with glass on the outside that says smash in case of emergency.
Yeah, and they're inside it, drinking something, I suppose, and chilling out, being
Probably
like, this
wine.
battle is not bad enough yet. I'm going to stay in here. There's a few younger
when it
troops.
gets really badass.
You call me when things are terrible, and then I'll come out.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, there's some servants, there's some merchants, there's some young kids, young troops, not children.
Yeah.
And so this means that the Tyrrhenians are kind of split their forces up. This is going to be a problem.
Oh, yeah. And in camps that the Romans know intimately.
They've also made a huge mistake about Manlius, despite the fact that he had this like javelin going through straight into his hamstring.
He's still going.
He thought somebody would prop him up and strap him onto a horse and send him back in again. And he's like, I am still going.
Yeah.
Like, cut it off at the wound site. I'm in there.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And there's nothing like, in classic battle narrative, again, there's nothing like someone who you thought has been struck down as your commander popping up again alive and everyone going, oh my god!
Yeah, but he's got lots of wounds and stuff, and particularly the one on his leg is not great.
Oh no, I know, but still, showing himself to the troops and being like, I'm still alive, guys, keep going. Like, hurrah.
And he's got himself on the horse, so this means that there's another cavalry run being made. Because people are getting tired as well, so it's like the infantry people on the ground are now like got horses running at them again. They're like, what? I'm not ready for that.
But we killed you. Yeah.
Yeah, so he falls off his horse. Perhaps unsurprising.
Yeah. Well,
unable to rise because, wounds to the leg and all. And then dies there while the young troops try to keep him alive. So the prophecy of the Tyrrhenians starts to become fulfilled in this moment.
Kind of.
Yeah. Because he's gone back towards that side of the camp.
True. This is true. Yes.
Yeah,
but as far as I can tell, though, this is all gonna. The Etrurians are fighting passionately now because they've got their backs to the wall when all this happens. And obviously, well, not obviously, but according to Livy's account, just as the Romans are, disheartened by the death of prominent men, the other side are like, woohoo, prominent men dead, excellent. But essentially, the Romans are going to come out victorious. But it's bittersweet for them because they lost prominent men like Fabius, like Manlius, which makes sense given your prophecy.
Yeah, it's come at a really big cost. Yeah. And it turns out the Tyrrhenians are just not quite as disciplined as they need to be.
They never are.
It's unfortunate. So they've decided to do a bit of plunder because they've noticed that there's a lot of Romans dead at this point. They think they've got time for that. But they really don't. Marcus Fabius is still alive and he's still angry.
And so his other brother.
And he's turned up with the best people on horse that he can find and the best infantrymen he can find. And they surround the camp that the Tyrrhenians are looting.
That's not good.
And there's more battle.
Yeah.
So we have some other issues.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have mention of a Titus Siculus.
I do not.
Also possibly Sicinius. Nobody's really quite sure about that one.
This isn't the same. This isn't like the tribune of the plebs that we had this.
No, he's holding a similar position to Caeso in the sense that he's got, or Quintus, I should say, because I don't know what position Caeso's holding at this point.
Yeah.
But Quintus he had Imperium, and he was able to lead troops and stuff. And so does this guy. And he has a plan which he lets Marcus Fabius know about.
Right.
And he orders a retreat. And this means that all the Romans can assemble into a single body and then assault the remaining camp.
Uh-huh.
The one that's still being most
Full
held
speed
and
ahead.
fortified.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they managed to like get the guys who were plundering that camp over on one side.
Yeah.
And they also then make this last dash with everybody to attack the camp that was more fortified on this side.
Right.
And the Tyrrhenians run away.
Well, yeah.
Run
away! Run away!
Dionysius is at pains to emphasize that this battle is the most terrible battle that Rome has ever been in.
So you say terrible?
Most terrible.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Just because of the bloodshed?
The amount of bloodshed, but apparently the number of people involved.
Okay. I can see that, though. I mean, it makes sense. If you think about the Romans with their allies, the city of Veii with their allies, like that's starting to get much more of Italy involved, I suppose, than we've previously seen in the little skirmishes that we often talk about,
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot more people, apparently.
Yes.
I mean, figures are notoriously suspect in our written sources. But some of the detail and and I feel like part of the build-up of the omen at the start of Dionysius' narrative is to, in part, to weave it back to this sort of like, this was horrific.
Yeah.
They fought for so long. Everybody lost something. There were 3 different encampments that you had to deal with.
Yeah.
You know, people thought people were dead and then they weren't dead and then they were really dead. Brothers were lost. The Fabii.
Yeah. Oh, the Fabii.
Oh, the Fabii.
Just the Fabii, yeah. You don't need to say any more than that. Interesting. Okay. Well, in my account, this year is kind of rounded off with the fact that Marcus Fabius is awarded a triumph for this battle, which is obviously a great honour. But obviously, with the bittersweet side of it, he after his triumph, he then also has to. Well, he doesn't have to. Well, he does kind of, but you know what I mean. He then goes on to celebrate. He has to go through the rituals and that sort of thing of the 2 funerals of his brother and also of Manlius. And so, obviously, the bittersweetness of having lost 2 people he valued so much. Then I had this really interesting little detail, which I'm sure that Dionysius includes, but I'm going to get in there first.
Do it. Go.
Apparently, so once all that stuff is over, Marcus had set out that year with this plan that he was somehow going to make the common people love him and the Fabii again. Okay? I know. Shocking.
Questionable.
Yeah, I know. So what he does is he distributes all of the wounded soldiers amongst the patrician families to be taken care of until they're cured. And the largest amount of any of the wounded are given to the Fabii clan, like the various members of that clan. And they are treated incredibly well. And it works. The Fabii become, apparently, at this point in time, very popular with the people.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I do not have that story.
Well, there you go. Ha, Livy.
Livy giving us something. He's breaking through.
Not like Christmas.
Yeah, no, I don't have anything quite like that.
Okay. Yeah.
Certainly not where I'm up to. So, like, if we're getting into the end of this year, we have honours for valour,
of course,
awarded to Kaiser.
Yeah. So he has come good in the end.
Titus Siculus, and also Marcus Fabius.
Of course, yeah.
Fabius, our favourite good-looking centurion.
Absolutely.
But they do also award a triumph to Marcus Fabius. But according to Dionysius, he declines this honour.
Really?
Yeah. And he says he can't possibly take it because of the death of his brother and the loss of his colleague.
Actually, yeah, he does. Sorry, to be fair, Livy does mention that he does talk about this. He does say that no, I won't accept it. And they say, typical Roman fashion, the fact that you have been awarded a triumph and then turn it down. I mean, oh my god, that just makes you worthy of 10 rounds. I'd be like, oh my god, can we love you anymore?
Yeah, it's so sweet that you would make this sort of sacrifice.
Yeah, that's my bad. You're right. He does turn it down in my version as well.
Yeah. And so we have this sort of moment where, you know, he's declined the honours, and this is increasing his own sort of like sense of valor in the community.
Are wetting themselves. They are so excited.
But and it just says here that he dismisses the soldiers to their homes.
Okay.
And that he resigns the consulship, even though there's 2 months remaining in his candidature, because he feels he's no longer capable of performing the duties required of him.
That is quite different,
apparently he's still got his own wound that he's dealing with as a result of this battle, but also the grief of losing you know, his brother, and he's lost his colleague.
Absolutely.
So
well, I think that's probably a good place as any to finish up with. So that means, Dr. G, that it is time for the partial pick.
Incredible.
Alright, so hit me with it. What have we got first off the rank?
Military clout.
Well, I feel like this is good on the balance.
Yeah, look, I mean, they came through, didn't they?
They did, yeah, definitely. I actually feel like I have to give them a 7.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, we haven't had one of these really epic battles for a while.
Yeah, look, I mean,
okay.
Yes.
So, 7 for military. Okay.
7 for military clout.
Yeah.
Diplomacy. Shocking.
Well, yeah, the fact that
you're at war.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so nothing.
No eagles.
Yeah, no eagles.
Expansion.
Not really expansion, they're really just defending themselves, aren't they?
No eagles. Virtus.
Ooh, now, I feel like there's some stuff.
There's a lot of virtus going on.
Yeah.
All of the valor in battle.
Absolutely.
All of the getting back on your horse, even though you got your legs snapped in two by a javelin.
Flav looking hot and defending his country while doing so.
Taking the vow to just never return unless it's with victory.
Turning down a triumph.
Ooh. I feel like this is almost like a 10 for virtus.
I would agree with that. I think it's a 10. Yeah. Okay, let's go 10.
Alright, citizen score.
This is tough because I feel like based on my account, there is a little bit of positivity, even though overall nothing really has changed. So I feel like I'm willing to give them maybe, I don't know.
I mean, if Fabius is taking on board all of the wounded soldiers and redistributing them for their convalescence.
Yeah, and they say that they're all really well taken care of, although again, look, who's recording the other side of me?
It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? It's like you're being treated well, but you did have to, like, get your leg hacked off, you know?
Well, yeah, and there is all that mental, like, the mind games they play in order to get them to that point. The fact that they have to go through, like, I mean, you know, the fact that I had pages, Dr. G, pages, which is just not something I've had for a while, of Livy talking about the mind games of they're being insulted, they feel conflicted about that, they ask to fight, but no, the consuls don't want them to fight, and then they say this, and then it's a lot more than usual. I don't know. I still feel like it can't be more than a 5. I still feel like it's going to be like a 3 or a 4.
All right.
What do you reckon?
I reckon, like, let's err on the side of caution.
Okay.
Give them a 3.
That makes 20.
Oh!
Golden Eagles.
That's pretty good.
That's almost a pass.
We're nearly there, guys. If we keep going at this rate, we'll be up to 50 in no time.
Well, definitely stay tuned for next time, guys, because I feel like we really are starting to turn a bit of a corner.
We are.
Yeah,
yes.
I think
things are about to get different.
Yeah, conflict of the orders. I think things are starting to change. Now, not to date this episode too much, but this is around the new year. And so we hope that you've had a very Merry Christmas and that you're enjoying the new year of 2018.
Enjoy.
Indeed.
Enjoy.